Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Calls for the Bermuda Premier to resign or call fresh elections as a second government MP walks away. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Friday, March 17th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. Bermuda's opposition Progressive Labour Party, PLP, is demanding that Premier Michael Dunkley step down or call a snap general election after backbencher Mark Pettingill resigned, leaving the country run by what the opposition describes as a minority government. Pettingill is the second MP to leave the ruling One Bermuda Alliance, the OBA, since the 2012 elections. Sean Crockwell, a former tourism and transport minister, resigned from the party a year ago over Dunkley's leadership and has since sat in the House of Assembly as an independent. And with Pettingill's resignation, the OBA and the PLP now each have 17 MPs in the House of Assembly. The ruling PLP's Randy Horton is the Speaker of the House and can only vote in the case of a tie. Pettingill, a former Attorney General, said on Thursday that he would sit as an independent in his Warwick North East constituency until the next general election due later this year, and he is likely to quit politics altogether then. He said he felt compelled to leave the governing party due to conflicts with his legal work, and also because he diametrically and philosophically opposes the government's position on numerous issues. The opposition PLP says the news that Pettingill found it necessary to resign from the party he helped found is yet another signal that Dunkley's leadership is directionless, ineffective and weak. The PLP insisted that it is time for the Premier to either resign or seek a mandate from the people through a general election. It added, quote, "It should be jarring to all Bermudians that we now for the first time ever have a minority government at the helm and that the OBA cannot secure the passage of any legislation without the assistance of the independent or opposition members," end quote. Premier Dunkley, whose OBA won the 2012 general elections 9 seats to 17, described Pettingill's resignation as disappointing, but he has refused to cave in to the PLP's demands to step aside.
The critical thing at this time is that we need to make sure that Bermuda remains stable. We have so much work to do. The country's not ready for an election at this point in time. There are some in the opposition who might want that, but it won't serve any of us well.
Tributes are pouring in following the death of St. Lucia Nobel laureate Sir Derek Walcott. He died on Friday morning. He passed away at his home in St. Lucia at the age of 87 after a prolonged illness. CTV News remembers his contribution to Caribbean literature and arts.
Sir Derek made this country his home in 1953 before founding the Trinidad Theatre Workshop in 1959, where many of his plays would be produced. For many years, he divided his time between Trinidad, where he had his home as a writer, and Boston University, where he taught literature and creative writing. In 1992, Derek Walcott was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. He will be greatly missed by his family and friends, and his funeral, the details of which will be announced shortly, will be held in St. Lucia.
Derek is survived by 3 children, Peter, Elizabeth, and Anna. And St. Lucia's Prime Minister Alan Chastanet has described Sir Derek's death as a great loss for the country. He said the literary genius was truly a Caribbean patron. Chastanet added that in recognition of the statesman that Sir Derek was, flags in St. Lucia will be flown at half-mast until next Tuesday. He's also in discussions with the late national icon's family and the artistic fraternity to discuss what tributes can be paid. And in his message of condolences, OECS Chairman Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris of St. Kitts and Nevis said Sir Derek's poetry was a reflection of his deep commitment to his country and the Caribbean. Harris reflected on the Nobel laureate's distinguished career and legacy, saying his soul would forever live on through his body of award-winning literary works. Meantime, Vice-Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, said Sir Derek was one of the finest intellects of the 20th century and a literary phenomenon. In other news, the Dominica government and a major trade union are at odds over new wages for public servants. The Dominica Public Service Union has warned that it's prepared to call out all its members if the government does not put a better offer on the table. And Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit has expressed disappointment at that position. He says the announcement by the union is surprising since negotiations have not broken down.
It's surprising since negotiations are on the way.
I believe that we must allow the process to go through. As far as I know, there has been no breakdown in negotiations between the government and the Public Service Union. They're meeting, and if there is a breakdown, then the matter is referred to the Prime Minister, who will then intervene. But what Mr. Layton is doing by involving partisan politics in the union and the negotiations is a dangerous thing. And I have had in the past occasions to meet with the unions myself to negotiate with them. And at every time the unions have met with me to negotiate, they have left more than satisfied with the government when we negotiate with them and so forth. So if you were to ask me as a citizen of the country and the Prime Minister of the country, do public officers require a raise? I would first say yes. There are some who are working very hard and who a raise will do very well. But at the end of the day, my friends, we have to look at the overall welfare of the country.
The union is seeking a 15% wage increase over the next 3 years and has already rejected the government's offer of 0% over the same period. Thomas Tang is the General Secretary of the Dominica Public Service Union.
We are saying that enough is enough. We believe it is an insult. For 3 years, we are never consulted. There is absolutely no dialogue with us. And when we get to the negotiating table, you tell us you're going to give us a wage freeze. No way are we going to accept a wage freeze. They have to find the money to pay public officers. When ministers of government wanted 52% salary increase, they found the money. So they have to find it for us. And we are not going to compromise. They have to find money to pay our salary increase.
The Antigua government has dismissed a report by the United States government which expressed concern about the country's Citizenship by Investment program, the CIP, and its anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism regimes. In its 2017 International Narcotics Control Strategy report, the U.S. government described Antigua and Barbuda as an offshore center which continues to be vulnerable to money laundering and other financial crimes. It said the country's relatively large financial sector and internet gaming industry add to its susceptibility. The report also claimed that Antigua and Barbuda's CIP increases its susceptibility to money laundering and other financial crimes. But the government pointed out that no evidence was provided or any sources given for those assertions. And it insisted that the Twin Island nation operates a CIP that adheres to the highest international standards and best practices. The Gaston Brown administration says it is perplexed over the depiction of Antigua in the report, and it has invited the U.S. government to present the evidence supporting all the claims and assertions. We move over to Jamaica. In her final budget contribution as opposition leader, Portia Simpson Miller has joined the call for government to roll back some of the taxes it announced to finance its budget. She's charged that the proposed budget will increase the burden on the vulnerable and bring the middle class to the brink of poverty. Simpson Miller specifically described the tax on residential electricity as oppressive and warned that the crisis facing the health sector would worsen with the new tax on group health insurance.
There's general consensus in Jamaica that poor people are fed up. This budget is unjust. This budget is counterproductive. This budget has no heart. Business people say this budget is going to make their businesses uncompetitive. Trade unions say the measures are nearly criminal. The government must listen to the people. The government must roll back taxes.
Simpson Miller's contribution on Thursday was the last before she hands over the reins of the People's National Party to Dr. Peter Phillips later this month. Still to come in Caribbean Newsline, Haiti's Senate condemns the arrest and extradition of a colleague. The details when we return.
Have you or someone you know been diagnosed with diabetes? If so, it is important that you know about Glucerna. Glucerna is a nutritional supplement for people with diabetes and contains Carb Steady, which helps minimize blood sugar spikes. Manage your diabetes with Glucerna. Glucerna, nutrition for people with diabetes, designed for you.
Yeah, the bomb. The bomb. Oh, show it off for me. What's left? All right, left. Good luck.
So, DJ Nori, he is fun, professional, and a great guy.
What's up, guys? Everybody doing all right? What's going on? I just finished having a little lunch with Kibo, and we definitely was talking about you guys, and he said y'all was going to be down here, but so while I'm driving to the airport, I said, let me come over here.
The Anthony and Sabga Caribbean Awards for Excellence invites nominations for its next awards cycle in the categories Arts and Letters, Science and Technology, Public and Civic Contributions, and Entrepreneurship. Join the growing college of distinguished laureates from throughout the region we've honored in the last decade. Visit www.answercaribbeanawards.com for forms and instructions. Nominations close on March 31st.
Welcome back. The Senate in Haiti has approved a resolution strongly condemning the arrest and extradition of Guy Philippe to the United States. Philippe was extradited in January on drug trafficking charges. 19 of the 24 senators voted on the resolution that also demanded the return of Philippe and others who are illegally detained in the U.S. The 48-year-old Philippe, who is in a U.S. federal jail in Miami, had been elected as a senator last November. According to the resolution, the arrest of Philippe constitutes an attack on democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. It also said the arrest showed a lack of respect for the rights of the Haitian people to self-determination. The Senate is also calling on the Haitian government to undertake, without delay, all the necessary diplomatic steps for an immediate return of Philippe. Philippe pleaded not guilty to the charges of cocaine trafficking and money laundering, which allegedly occurred from 1997 to 2003. If convicted, he could face up to life in prison. He's due back in the U.S. court early next month. Guyana's Prime Minister is assuring that the country's sugar industry will not be shut down. The assurance from Moses Nagamutu comes as sugar workers are in a panic over statements made by the opposition suggesting that the government will be closing the industry. Nagamutu says though there are fewer factories in the country, he's confident that the industry can still be productive. Royden James of HGP Nightly News has the details of that story.
Thousands of sugar workers had their hearts in their hands after speculation by the opposition PPP and their union GAU suggested that the government will be moving to close the entire sugar industry. Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu put all speculation to rest on Wednesday.
In the world today, sugar estates are closing down. Cane sugar estates are closing down very rapidly. And we have to ensure that Gaisuco does not come out of sugar. It must at least be able to manage a few factories and produce at least 150,000 tons that we could sell on the international market for the best price. We cannot give up the effort to transform the sugar industry, to modernize the sugar industry, and to deal with workers.
The Prime Minister said that the government has heard the cries of the people and will ensure that all is done to secure jobs in the sugar belt. He said the government holds the view that the workers' welfare comes before profit.
We understand when workers and their unions put up the slogan that they do not want closure of sugar. Sugar will not be closed. I do not see that ever happening in my lifetime.
The Prime Minister reiterated that sugar has put a burden on the National Treasury for years and said it is because of the monies that the government had to spend in the industry. Some categories of public servants cannot enjoy a hefty salary package today.
We have to think that we can no longer treat the sugar industry as if it is a stone around our neck. That sugar, as bad as its history has been, should be allowed to drag the entire nations down.
Meanwhile, in a statement issued on Thursday, the Guyana Agricultural and General Workers Union said, among other things, quote, "At this time, when it is generally agreed that our nation's economic fortunes are on the decline, the government, though it says it hasn't made up its mind on sugar, is actively, we see, promoting policies that will make a bad situation worse." Unquote.
Trinidad and Tobago's Labour Minister Jennifer Baptiste Primus says the decision to close the Caroni Limited State Enterprise is purely based on economics. The Caroni Enterprise is a pepper production company that was formed in 2013. At a media brief on Thursday, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley announced that it was among a number of other small enterprises to be closed. He said it was spending $6 million TT to produce just 700,000 peppers while facing private sector competition. Speaking to the media on the sidelines of a workshop on productivity on Friday, the Labour Minister defended the decision to close the enterprise down.
The economic numbers are there for all of you to examine it, whether or not. Would you at the personal level engage in a business exercise and you are losing money, you're not making money, are you going to stay in business? You can't. We are into a very difficult economic period where we have to look at whether or not we are getting value for money. And indeed, if you have an organization which isn't giving you the value in return, then you can't keep pouring money down a dark hole.
3 Romanians charged with money laundering in Grenada have now been deported. They left the island on Friday afternoon. The trio had been jointly charged by Grenada police in connection with an ATM scam after a search warrant executed at their St. George apartment turned up a quantity of cash in U.S. and Eastern Caribbean currencies. On Thursday, the men appeared in the St. George's Magistrates Court and pleaded guilty. Their deportation was then ordered. And ahead in Newsline Sport, CONCACAF's president pledges his support for Guyana's football program. Stay with us. Sport is next.
Barbados, renowned for its pristine beachfront and fantastic weather, continues to leave quite an impression on newcomers to the island and returning visitors. The Caribbean island, quite popular as a vacation hotspot, is not only beautiful due to its natural aesthetics. The island of Barbados continues to grow in popularity because of unique connections developed with our people, our culture. We can't wait to welcome you.
Round Hay Pharmacy now has 2 locations to fill your prescriptions promptly and efficiently. Our branch at One Accord Plaza is open daily, including Sundays and bank holidays. Also, check out our new drive-through location at Warren's Healthcare Complex in Michael, the first and only drive-through pharmacy in Barbados. For more information, call Round Hay One Accord Plaza at 421-7863 and our new drive-through branch at Warren's in Michael at 424-5574.
Come play at the 50th edition of Antigua Sailing Week. Not a sailor? Not a problem. Chase the race from the best beach locations and party in the ocean. On our beaches, a different one each day. Take a drink, take another. Hula, play, dance in the sand. Dance to reggae, to soca, to the beat of your own drum under the moonlight. 7 beach days and party nights. Come play at the 50th edition of Antigua Sailing Week.
April 29th to May 7th, 2017.
Are you up for the challenge?
And welcome back. Football tops our weekend sport. CONCACAF's president has pledged his support for Guyana's football program. The Canadian-born football administrator recently visited Guyana and gave a commitment to develop infrastructure for the sport in the country. He also heaped praises on the work done by the Guyana Football Federation. Isan Griffith of Capital News tells us more in this report.
FIFA and CONCACAF President Victor Montagliani and a high-level delegation wrapped up a successful two-day visit to Guyana today. Yesterday, the CONCACAF president paid a courtesy call on President David Granger, Director of Sports Christopher Jones, among other officials. At the press conference late yesterday afternoon at Pegasus Hotel, the CONCACAF President Victor was very supportive of the work done by Wayne Ford-led administration.
And so I'm very pleased with my visit here in terms of what I've seen, the direction that the Guyana Federation is going under the leadership of President Ford and his team. And it's nice to see that football is first in Guyana.
He said CONCACAF will be given much needed support in infrastructure development, and the CONCACAF visit here is to strengthen its relationship with the Guyana Football Federation.
I was really pleased to see a government that is really supporting our sport and the sport that I love, and the Guyana Federation in terms of looking at ways to help, whether it's redoing fields, whether it's looking at new lands. So it's really nice to see the support right from the top in this country, of the president. And so I think with that kind of voluntary sort of support, I think challenging and tackling the issues of infrastructure in a partnership, because at the end of the day, no one entity will probably be able to do it on its own. There needs to be partnerships, and so I'm optimistic, very optimistic, that those challenges, infrastructure challenges, can be tackled. But they have to be tackled in the right way, and there has to be a long-term plan over the next 10, 20 years, quite frankly. And I think that's where we're at. And obviously there's some things that can be done right now, and with the development of the technical center, that's one of them. But I think, that's just a start, the way I see it.
To cricket now, batsman Lendl Simmons has backed his West Indies teammate Andre Russell to bounce back strongly following his one-year ban. Jamaican Russell was slapped with a suspension last month after being found guilty by a local disciplinary panel of failing to disclose his whereabouts and missing 3 drugs tests. Simmons called the suspension harsh, but said he believed the all-rounder would recover from the setback. He told the Trinidad Guardian newspaper, quote, "Not having Russell is a very big blow. I think it's a big loss for us and to the cricketing world in general, specifically in the 2020 arena. I personally think it is very harsh, but it is done already and I hope he's dealing with it well. To miss a whole year of cricket is very hard, especially when you know you are making your living off cricket and you have a family to feed," end quote. Both Simmons and Russell were members of the West Indies side, which captured an unprecedented second 2020 World Cup in India last April. West Indies Cricket Board President Dave Cameron has urged Shashank Manohar to rethink his decision to resign as chairman of the International Cricket Council. The former Indian Cricket Board president stepped down this week as the ICC's first independent chairman after just 8 months in the role. His move has not been a popular one, and Cameron said his view was shared by several other ICC members. Manohar was behind the much talked about revenue sharing system set to be employed by the ICC, a move Cameron said he backed. He said personal reasons were behind his decision, but speculation is rife that he came under immense pressure because of his attempts to reduce the power of England, India and Australia, referred to as the Big Three. He also stated in his letter that he has tried to do his best and try to be fair and impartial in deciding matters in the functioning of the board. And finally, the countdown begins for TNT to take on the rest of the world in round 2 qualifiers of the FIH World Hockey Tournament. The qualifiers will be held from March 25th to April 2nd, with the host lineup against the likes of Russia, Japan and Switzerland in Pool B. Barbados will clash Chile, Malaysia and USA in Pool A. Ruskin Mart of C-Sport tells us more in this report.
Me as a coach, it's very tough. You all know I don't want to go to the negatives at all. I'm not that kind of person. But we're going to really make you all proud. I just have that faith that this team is going to do well. I have 3 players coming in from 2 from the UK, 1 from Australia. And they're going to add a lot of quality to the team. And all we just need is your support, people.
A quietly confident coach there who started this journey 8 months ago and is now anxious to get things rolling against some of the best players and teams in the world. It's something not lost on most of the speakers at the official launch of the FIH World League second round tournament, which represents the 3rd time the TNT men have reached this far, but now the job gets doubly tough.
The number of teams, number of ranked teams, in terms of World League ranked teams in this part of the world, that's going to compete in this part of the world, it will be unprecedented. Normally, a tournament of this level is normally held in Europe or Asia. Trinidad has gotten won the bid for this particular tournament, and therefore it should be very, very exciting and competitive at the level, the men level that is.
Like Coach Francis, St. Rose is also urging fans from all over to come out and support the team and the venture to help with the development of the sport locally. Sports Minister Darius Smith also informed all that the new turf has been ordered as well as the cleaning machine to support it, suggesting that the lifespan to the new strip should be much longer than the present one, which is badly beaten up after 10 years of use, but may have to be patched and used for the tournament while the new turf is under order. But he also outlined why this tournament is important to all of Trinidad and Tobago.
As you all know, it's no secret that we're going through some turmoil with regards to the economy with oil and gas. And my job as Minister of Sport is to push the drive that we've had with regards to sports tourism. And when I saw the list of countries and the athletes that will be here from Canada, Chile, Brazil, Japan, Russia, USA, Barbados, Switzerland, I mean, that's every corner of the globe, right? So it's something that we really want to highlight and have. I've already spoken to the sports company to have various primary schools and secondary schools bust in to come and see, especially the primary schools, so you all take full advantage to recruit and to highlight the sport so we could have new players coming on board when they see this top level of play.
As we wish the men all the best as they get ready to host, spare a thought for the women who are on the road as they too will play in the second round of the World League, but will have to travel to Canada to see action early next month.
And that's the wrap on sports. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Yeah, the bugs. Oh, show it off for me. What's left? All right, left. Good luck.
So, DJ Nori, he is fun, professional, and a great guy.
What's up, guys? Everybody doing all right? What's going on? I just finished having a little lunch with Kibo, and we definitely was talking about you guys, and he said y'all was going to be down here, but so while I'm driving to the airport, I said, let me come over here.
In a place where legends start, the beach is just the beginning. So live a little for the exhilaration and the color of every moment, where time is and life is a spirited event. Immerse yourself in the culture, the music, the people, the island. Love Antigua and Barbuda. Embrace an experience that leaves you breathless, from cricket to sailing week to carnival and more. Antigua and Barbuda, the beach is just the beginning.
Again, the major developments of this day: Bermuda's opposition calls for Premier Michael Dunkley to step down or call elections after a second government MP resigns. And in sport, CONCACAF's president pledges his support for Guyana's football program. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sports round the clock, log on to CanadaNews.com. We'll be back here again on Monday, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for joining us this week and have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Good night.